Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thanks to all of you from your different time zones for joining us today. This is another webinar in SPTF series SPM Essentials, and it's part of the sub-series that we are running with the ILO to focus specifically on human resource development. Today is the third and final webinar in our series, and the focus of today's webinar is helping your employees adapt to digital transformation and also envisioning what human resource development looks like in a digital financial services context. Next slide, please. I am delighted to be joined today by my colleague Patricia Richter of the ILO, who has jointly organized this webinar with me, and we'll hear from Patricia a little bit later, and also by our distinguished speakers. So we have Mamie Kalanda, who is currently the Chief Executive Officer of FINCA in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. FINCA DRC is the largest microfinance institution in that country, and Mamie has over 18 years of international experience in microfinance. She's worked in Tanzania, Zambia, and Uganda, as well as where she is now in the DRC. We also welcome and are very pleased to have with us Manu Rajan, who has been a techno-marketer for over 23 years and has worked with companies in the USA, Asia, Pacific, and Africa that blend technology and finance with a specific focus on serving the poor. Manu is currently working as the division CEO of Wing Cambodia, which has interests in commercial banking, payments, and e-commerce. We were going to be joined also by a third speaker, Lido Villanueva, who is the Chief Innovations and Inclusion Officer at RCBC Bank in the Philippines. But unfortunately, Lido suffered a death in the family quite recently and is on leave. And so we wish him and his family all the best. We're very sorry to hear that. And obviously, he's not joining us today. But because he did do a lot of the preparation work and shared a lot of his insights from his work at RCBC as well as other jobs, we will be bringing in some of his input into the webinar today. So we thank him for his contribution and wish him well, and sorry he couldn't be here with us today. Next slide, please. Oh, and I forgot to introduce myself. I'll do that quickly. I'm Deputy Director of SPTF. I've been with SPTF since 2010. As Deputy Director, I play a lot of roles, but one of them is overseeing our review and updates of the Universal Standards Manual, which is the role that I'm wearing today when we focus on this topic. So today's agenda, we've done the welcome and introductions. I'm going to spend about 10 minutes setting the stage with you, which means defining, for those of you who are newer to this concept, what we mean by social performance management, or SPM, and then talking about what the universal standards for SPM are and what the review process is and how that relates to the learnings that we're sharing with you today, and also this SPM Essential series that we're running as part of helping organizations understand and implement the universal standards. So after my brief setting the stage portion, we'll get to our interviews with our speakers. We have, again, Manu and Mamie here from Wing and from FINCA DRC, and they'll do a brief overview of their organizations, and then we will get into the interview. And so we're going to do this instead of as presentations, as conversations, and we do invite you again to chat your questions in the chat box, and you can participate as much as you like. We hope it's a lot, and after I get through my interview questions with them, we'll have plenty of time for you to ask yours. Next slide, please. So first, let's start with some key definitions. What is social performance management? SPM is the continuous process of implementing management practices focused on setting and achieving social and environmental targets. So the goal of social performance management is to protect and benefit customers, employees, and the environment. And when we think about what are the elements of good social performance management, we've divided the manual into 7 dimensions, which you can think of as chapters. And we've given each a name, and within each dimension, we list management practices specific to that particular area of management. So the first dimension is the social strategy, the second, committed leadership, the third, client-centered products and services, the fourth, client protection, the fifth, human resource development, the sixth, balanced growth and returns. And the 7th, which used to be optional, but now is mandatory, is environmental performance management. So that's an overview of the manual. Next slide, please. If we dig into it, what you see that this manual contains is a comprehensive list of our sectors, our global financial inclusion sector's shared understanding what best practices are. So SPTF doesn't write this manual, but we interview all our members around the world. And that's why we say it's created by and for people in microfinance, and it serves as a resource to help financial service providers achieve their goals. So again, we collect the information from around the world. We manage this process of documenting it and updating it. And we also work very closely with Cerise, which is a social agency based in France, and they developed the SPI audit tool, which is an assessment tool that is free and allows your institution to assess its practices against the standards. So the review processes, we first published the manual in 2012. We review it approximately every 5 years to make sure that it continues to reflect best practice. In 2020, we began a review process, and it's quite involved. It begins with a lot of literature review, research review. We do expert interviews with at least a dozen experts for every dimension of the standards and sometimes more. We do webinars to solicit comment from those we didn't interview individually. We also do public surveys. We've done some data analysis looking at specific figures from certain institutions. The new manual is almost ready. We are going to publish it in January 2022. And after we finalize the content, there's an enormous amount of work to update the infrastructure, notably the audit tool and also the implementation guide and our training resources. It's quite extensive, so that infrastructure update will likely take all of next year. But we are beginning to plan for it. And in the meantime, we started this essential series. And so we've had monthly webinars. They began last March, and the purpose is to share good practice, particularly related to the areas of the standards that have been updated or strengthened since the last version. And I'm going to ask Joost, please, to share the website where we post the presentations and recordings of this SPM Essential series. So we'll just wait 1 second. This is wonderful. Thank you. This is a page on SPTF's website. It's the SPM Essential Series page. You can see a list in chronological order of the webinars that we've had so far. And if you scroll down to webinar 5, this was the first webinar in our sub-series here with the ILO that's specifically focused on Dimension 5, which is responsible treatment of your employees and promoting human resource development. So we had a first webinar that was focused specifically on listening to your employees as a business strategy, having better communication, and really using employee ideas as well as listening to their concerns in order to strengthen the organization. So there's the recording that's posted, there's the presentation that's posted, but also if you click on the brief link, we write about a 3-page, 4-page brief, depending on the webinar, that summarizes not only the key points from the presentation, but also from the Q&A discussion at the end. And the brief shows how the discussion relates to the universal standards. So this is a nice summary of what we heard during the webinar. Currently, you see this is posted just in English, but we're actively having it translated into French and Spanish. And if you check back on this website, the brief will be available in all 3 languages in the coming weeks. So this is a great place to catch up on webinars that you've missed. Now we can go back to the PowerPoint presentation, please. And I apologize, it's sunrise here, so my light is very weird as the light is streaming through my window, but I hope you'll be able to see me again soon. We can go to the next slide. Then for today's webinar, we are focusing on, as said, in Dimension 5, responsible human resource development. And this is a little bit of a new one for us. Dimension 5 talks about responsible human resource development practices in any context, not just digital. But the one, our discussion today is going to focus on digital specifically, and yet that's falling within the broader umbrella of Standard 5B, which is the institution's human resource development system is designed to attract and maintain a qualified and motivated workforce. So that's one of our main standards. And then the first essential practice under that standard is the provider gives each employee complete employment documentation and training to understand their job requirements. And if you go to the right of the screen, you'll see if you were to use the SPI tool to assess whether your organization is doing this, these are the indicators and details that we would use to assess whether you are giving the employees the training that they need to do their job well. So the first is about communicating the terms of the employment. The second is about giving orientation and job-specific training to new employees. But then when you get to the third indicator, where you talk about professional development opportunities, so your employees really grow with your institution. And I think that's the closest fit for what we're going to be talking about today, is when you digitally transform, or you're in a new kind of institution and it's all digital and you need to support your employees, what does that look like? And then the final indicator here, men and women receive equal opportunities for training and skill development. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen, and so we call out that it should. Next slide, please. And now, with that in mind, we're going to get into the meat of today's discussion. And again, I'm very happy to welcome, we'll go to Mamie first to give a brief overview of FINCA DRC, so you get a sense of the institution that she's helming. Mamie, to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Mamie Kalonda, as presented by Amelia. FINCA DRC is part of the group, FINCA group, that is present in 20 countries. But in DRC, we started our business in 2003. Our business is located in DRC, of course. We have 23 branches, over 560 full-time employees, and over 1,600 agent banking. We have over 350,000 customers, active 365 days, and over 80% of our transactions, our customers' transactions go through mobile and agent banking. So 62% of our customers are male, while 38 are female. We offer different kinds of digital products and non-digital products. We have loans, savings, remittances, international and local transfer funds. We have bill payments with different companies. We have tax, we have schools, we have TV. So we have the mobile to wallet transaction and wallet to mobile transactions. So mobile application, we have a mobile application platform that we call Click, and we have salary payments. We have many companies and even the government that pay some of the employees via FINCA platform. So we deliver financial literacy to our customers, since we believe that if a customer is well informed, well educated, he will be also financially responsible, and he will be taking good financial decisions that will help not only the customer, but we also as financial institutions. So we do these trainings in physical or also digitally, and we try to do trainings in local languages so that customers can really clearly understand what FINCA is talking about. Next slide, please.
Amelia, I guess you're on mute.
Oh, so sorry. Thank you. Thank you for telling me. I was saying we'll go to the next slide, and Manu will go to you actually to introduce Wing before we get back to our questions for our speakers.
Sure, yeah, sure. Thank you, Amelia and Patricia, for having me here. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody who's there on the call. I represent Wing. My name is Manu Rajan. I am the division CEO of Wing division. Why we call it a division is because we have three different companies. We have three different businesses. We have a payments business, we have a commercial banking business, and we have a budding e-commerce business. We started in 2009. The history is that we wanted to emulate the success of M-Pesa in Kenya. And there was a delegation that went from Cambodia to Kenya to understand how M-Pesa, what is the secret behind M-Pesa's success, and replicate the same business model in Cambodia. So we came back in 2009 from Kenya and started Wing. It was started by ANZ Royal Bank and the Royal Group of Cambodia. We didn't do well in the initial years. We failed quite badly. In fact, after 3 years of operations, ANZ Royal Bank decided to sell the company off. It was after the current stakeholder, who was the Royal Group of Companies, bought over Wing, that the transactions started increasing and the adoption started increasing. Today, we have over 10,000 agents. About 1,000 employees. We are a single country operation. We only operate in Cambodia. We have about 12 million users every year. Cambodia is a smaller country. It has about 16 and a half, less than 17 million population. So 12 million out of that is pretty much the entire adult population of Cambodia. 49% of them are women, are men, and 51% are women. Almost 80% of our 10,000 agents are also women, and more than 50% of our users come from rural areas. Today, we started off as a mobile financial services company focusing on money transfer. Today, we have ambitions of building an open economy or driving an open economy in Cambodia with our what we call the digital ecosystem. And with these three different businesses that we have under the Wing brand name, the payments, banking, and the e-commerce. Thank you, Mint. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Wonderful. So let's go to the next slide. And we're going to do interviews, but we're going to, again, encourage everyone to talk. So you in our audience, please post your questions. Manu and maybe we'll switch back and forth between you, even though this list is just showing the questions I developed for FINCA, but we'll try to make this a little more like a real conversation and less like a presentation. So, but we'll start with this question. Maybe you have told me in preparation that digital transformation is a journey with 3 phases. You have front-end transformation, digitally integrated enterprises, and digital ecosystems. And I think that's an interesting framing to set the expectations for what this process is, that it isn't quick, that it has its phases. But can you summarize for our audience how long that took and what you mean by each of these stages of transformation?
Yeah, I think.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, maybe first, we'll do maybe first and then to you, Manu. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Talking about digital transformation in DRC, our journey started in August 2011. So that's when we really started with our first agents. And as we're moving on with the agents, what we wanted when we're talking about front ends, we wanted really to see our branches to not be having many customers and try to be closer to customers, and customers could still do cash in, cash out using our agent the same way that they were doing with our branches. And as we're moving on, we realized that mobile were also moving on, and mostly for us in a country where insecurity is there, and also we have many challenges in the country. So we started to integrate digital platform that could allow, actually we started with our digital transformation in terms of mobile in 2013. And as you know, when you are transforming digitally, you need to create synergies alone, it is quite difficult to move on. So we had to look for partners. That step has not been an easy one, because from 2013, we succeeded to have our first deal with a MNO company in 2016. That's when we started with our digital product. And from there, we started to improve, and we started first only with a mobile where with the short code, the customer could only just check the balance. Then from there, we start improving our USSD, making it available to every customer, trying to do wallet to bank, bank to wallet. And in that transformation, when we talk about integration, it is not only we as financial institutions, it's also the MNO company, but also the core banking system that you are using, because that core banking system has to be capable to do transaction, especially for FINCA, as we are doing real-time transactions. You have to have a system that is capable to make it happen. And as customers, they are receiving SMSs, those SMSs, they have to be instantly. So that integration, you have many things that you have to look at and make sure that what you are building up will not frustrate customers, but will make things easier for them. So after that, we also introduced our mobile application platform. We introduced it in 2019. Why our own mobile platform? It's because when you are going digitally only with partners, if those partners, they are having issues, automatically you will also have issues. So you don't have any plan B. So we had to create our own products so that we don't rely 100% on partners. So our platform is 100% owned by FINCA. And on our platform, customers, they can do bank to wallet, wallet to bank, open account, do transfers, and this is helping them. And once we build up all that system, you need also to create a digital ecosystem so that it will keep customers using that digital platform. So that's when you have to look for different partners, those who are doing payments, merchants, supermarkets, schools, taxes, so that customers, they will have always something to do. Because if what they are doing as activities, you don't have them on your digital platform, then the account will be dormant because they will not have any reason to use it. So that's why it is really key to have to create a digital platform ecosystem, digital ecosystem that will keep customers busy and using transacting on that platform. Thank you.
So actually, I'm going to stay with you for one more question, and then we'll switch over to Manu. But I think that FINCA is a great speaker today because you started in 2011. As you said, it's been 10 years. And Manu already shared with us that the first 3 years of Wing were painful. And I've heard from you, parts of this can be just a major shift. So I don't know if painful is too strong of a word, but certainly there's a lot of learning that happens and not everything goes smoothly. But if we focus on today's specific topic, which is the employees, we hear over and over that change management is really challenging. And I wanted to hear from you about your experience with staff, having been a different type of institution, and then doing all this change and doing it in phases, even if you had some really sound reasons for why this is going to be better for your clients. Can you share with us what that was like for your staff, and in particular, what was challenging for them and maybe something you needed to manage?
Actually, at the beginning, it was a bit difficult because our first agent that we launched, we didn't launch the agent closer in an area closer to the branch. We went to a distant area and tried to explain to them it's because those customers, when they are coming, they have to travel. So they have to spend the whole day for them to come and transact with us. So that was the first support that we get from them, to get our agent network coming up. But what's really the difficult challenge when you are transforming digitally, they have that tendency to think that technology is going to replace what they are doing. So, and what we did as a strategy, because we have a past history, myself, I started in FINCA as a loan officer. There is a time when I was a branch manager FINCA wanted to introduce PDA for field officers, and those PDA didn't succeed because field officers thought that by using those PDA, they will be controlled all the time. So what happened? They were like, no, there is no electricity at my place, so I couldn't charge it. So it didn't succeed. So when we were coming up with this digital transformation, having that past experience of seeing our own staff refusing technology, so what we did was to go slowly and selecting people as if they were the best, as if they were the one that could use it. Like, for example, when you are introducing tablets. So for them, they're like, so if you introduce tablets, that means where I used to do, for example, one, you will ask me to deliver two. Where I was spending my day, you know, I will just go in the field for one day, then sit in the office for another day just to put everything in the computer. So all those things will be done at once. So instead of creating that frustration, we selected some stuff and start with them to use. And we presented them like they are the people that love technology. So our world is moving on, they are moving on. So the fact that we put it like that, others, they were like, so are you telling me that I'm not capable to use tablets? So we're like, no, we are going slowly. Then we put it from one individual to the whole branch, from one branch to another one. So with that, it was like a competition and also a lot of trainings. Whenever we are introducing a change, we do trainings. And whenever we are introducing a change, since from the beginning, we wanted to show to our staff that they have to move on with technology. We first ask internally, can someone do it instead of hiring outside? So if we're looking for one staff, we'll take even two internally and say, we are going to work with you for 3 months. And after those 3 months, we will take the one who will perform very well. And so in some instances, we just take both of them. So that has created that acceptance. So we've been really lucky on that one because all the digital, so we're having a full digital department. So there is no one that has been hired from another company. All of them, they've been promoted within the institution. So they first worked for 6 months. Then after that, we confirmed each one based on specific targets that were given to him. So if you reach them, so you are okay, but we also accompany them with trainings, a lot of trainings. So we are having a data department, the data department is also having 100% staff promoted within, one from HR, one from business, another one from IT. So we just build up on them and you can see they are very motivated. And that one is also motivating others because every new things that are coming in, we are doing it, we are achieving it with our own staff instead of bringing in outside staff. And at the end, they are not losing their job, but they are getting promotion.
Yeah, wonderful. And this is actually, so I'm going to go over to you, Manu, but first I'm going to interject something I heard from Lido, which I asked him probably naively, this question of when you transform from a legacy bank as our CBC did, and you go to a more digital offer, does that mean you need to go hire a bunch of people with IT skills that weren't on your staff? And what he said is similar to what we just heard from Mimi, which is actually it matters. He said, I can get IT skills anywhere and we can even outsource to our partner if we really need someone to do something complicated. But what you need is your staff that are committed and motivated and responsible. So they didn't value as much prior existing IT skills in their transformation. What they valued was the staff that were, he said, he used the phrase, go to war with us. We're trying to do this new project. We want to do it together. And if the people were on board, then they felt like they could train them with the skills or outsource some of the stuff, but it wasn't a necessity to have a huge band of IT experts at the beginning. But Manu, you guys have always been digital. So I wonder what you think about that. Do you find that as a digital provider, the people you hire need to have a high level of skills in the specific digital areas that wing requires, or is it still more about finding people with the right sort of shared values and culture and work ethic, and then you can train them the way they need to be trained?
Thank you, Amelia. It's more like horses for courses approach. Now you have three different businesses. Obviously, functionally, when you're looking for people, you're looking for people who fit the functional expertise. But more than the skill and the will, what we also look for is a collaborative spirit, because for us, when you have three different businesses which can be leveraged, the synergies can be leveraged. What we need in people is the ability to work together across these different verticals, because these are three separate companies. So if you're in e-commerce, you should also be able to identify opportunities for the bank. And if you're in the bank, you should be able to identify opportunities for payment and vice versa. So what we do is, apart from, of course, the functional trainings, and we also do some about finding skilled labor in Cambodia, because when it comes to certain specific skilled areas, it's very difficult to find talent in Cambodia, be it data analytics, be it technology. So we work with organizations to nurture interns. So they have a very unique, so we are piloting a unique approach where we're working with an organization that takes interns from colleges, fresh graduates, and then they place them in organizations and along with a mentor. So you will have 2 employees from your organization, for example, and 2 interns and a mentor, and all 4 and all 5 are going to work on a project. And in the process, you basically are training 4 people in the required skill sets on the job. So we're exploring those kind of areas. But apart from all that, to nurture this collaborative spirit, we also have a life coach. And it has been going on for 4 years. So what the life coach does is we assign a life coach to every employee, especially the people managers within the organization, to help them work better, communicate better, understand people better, understand different perspectives better, and in the process also explore different areas to work together within the organization. It has been going on for 4 years. It doesn't give you immediate results, but this I personally have noticed has given us a lot of positive impact in bringing people together to work towards the common goal.
So I'm gonna actually, Rios, now if you can advance.
So yes, to answer the question,
The audio is strange for me. Patricia, are you hearing this okay, or is it just
Yes,
me?
I can hear you now. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, the line was breaking. The line was breaking, but I think
we missed your last point. Yeah, Manu, we just missed your last point. Can you say that again?
Yeah, so I was saying apart from all these functional trainings that we give to our employees, we also focus on a life coaching approach. So there is a life coach who's assigned to every employee, especially the people managers within the 3 different organizations. And the life coach's job is to make sure that the employees understand each other. They understand their perspectives, they communicate better, the camaraderie, the interpersonal skills, everything is better. And life coach is also available to you 24/7 in case you have personal issues at home. The life coach can be of help. So the objective is to blend your career path with your life path, so that our entire vision is to improve the lives of people using mobile financial services. Now, mobile has disappeared now that we've got a commercial banking license, but using financial services, the objective is to improve the lives of people, for which you need people who can think in those lines, people who see how to make use of the resources they have to improve somebody else's life. So this entire life coaching approach, it has been going on for 4 years, has actually given us a lot of positive results. So that was my last point. And to answer your question, yes, the skill trainings are important. We work with organizations to upgrade the skills of people, but more than the skill and the will, it is this camaraderie and this collaborative spirit that keeps us going.
Great. So this is actually related to 2 other questions I wanted to ask both of you. And Manu actually will stay with you. Joost, if you can advance the slide just so we can see a little variety, but we'll be going back and forth. One more actually to the wing slides. One of the interesting parts of the wing the wing structure is that you have your IT employees and you have your bankers, and they each bring a different skill set. But what I've heard a lot in my interviews, not just with this panel, but around digital transformation in general, is that there's a mindset shift that has to happen when you go from legacy banking to a more digital model that, and Lito was mentioning this as well, you have to be sort of faster, you're more flexible, less hierarchical. And I wonder if you've experienced that. So Manu, we'll start with you, and then maybe we'll go with you, but especially with the colleagues with the banking background, are you finding that you have to work on changing the mindset of how fast and flexible and adaptable the work environment and the strategy implementation needs to be in order to keep up?
Yeah, absolutely. We have been practicing open banking for a long time. We work with about 90 financial institutions. There are about 200 APIs connected on the platform. But finally, when it comes down to starting up that conversation about open banking, what's more important is an open mindset. So you are absolutely right. We have three different verticals with people with three different kinds of mindset. So we've been conscious enough to, the bank is the latest entrant into the three businesses. So we've been conscious enough to pick and choose people who have at least have those ambitions to think differently from the traditional banking operations. But however, a bank is a process-led organization. You have to put your process ahead of the purpose, and sometimes you get lost in the processes and lose the purpose. So that is why we have a hybrid structure. So we have a functional vertical which runs the bank, but your support functions are all horizontal. For example, if you have an HR function, you have marketing, you have the top management, which is basically whose objective is to support the organization, then that is a functional, that's a horizontal. So it's not a vertical. So that sort of helps us to make sure that we don't lose track of the ultimate objective of making people's lives better. That's our vision. So so we make sure that at least that horizontal organization keeps the purpose in front and reminds everybody constantly that this is exactly what we're supposed to do, and so that we don't get lost, we don't lose the purpose and get entangled in processes.
So maybe if we go over to you, it's the same question of, did you experience that people who had a previous mindset of, we have X number of committees and X number of processes from a banking world, when you switch to digital, you needed to be quicker, more flexible, and that sometimes there was a change management involved around what the hierarchy should be, what the processes should be to move forward as an organization? Is that something you encountered as well at FINCA DRC?
Yes, actually, when you are transforming digitally, you need to really be faster in taking quick decisions, because technology, things change. So if you take one step and stay there for 6 months, by the time you will go live, many other things will change as well. So reacting faster is very key. And at the staff level also, it is also key because of the competition in the markets. Because as we are thinking to improve our digital product, others also, they are thinking to do what we are doing. So if you don't react faster, those will come after you, will overtake even what you have been put in the markets. And we saw it during lockdown last year. So many financial institutions, they were not taking it seriously, transforming digitally. But with lockdowns, they had to think otherwise, because if you don't transform digitally, that means during the whole lockdown, your customers can't be served. So this is something that we faced, and I can say the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, has helped not only staff, but also our customers to understand the beauty and the benefits of transforming very faster when it is about digital activities.
So this is, I'll stay with you maybe, but it's reminding me of something Lito told me, which is, he said when he first joined RCBC Bank and he wanted to implement some new technological function, there were 5 different committees that he had to talk to and get approval from before that decision could be officially approved. And that was one of the first changes as he made, is we're gonna have one committee, will present the idea, because it was too slow. And so I wonder if you can share in your HR structure, specifically, do you have examples like that of how you used to have a 6-month approval process, or 3 different committees that you had to streamline in order to make the structure of your decision-making move fast enough for FINCA DRC's digital needs?
Actually, what we did in FINCA DRC was to change and put in place different departments. Since our loan officers were now having tablets in the field, so it was no longer important for them to come back, put everything in the system, then sit in the credit committee, beginning discussing on what has been put on the form. So what we did, we create a unit, head office unit, that is, the all work they're doing is to analyze all those loans that are being sent through the workflow. So we put in place a workflow system. It used to be manual from the paper, from the, I don't know, customer business, the loan officer put it on the paper, then put it in the computer. After that, the supervisor will look at it, the branch manager, but we introduced that like a workflow system. So with that workflow system from the field, the loan officer will input everything and transfer the file right away to the supervisor, and the supervisor will do the same and transfer it to the centralized credit unit that is seated at head office. And once the centralized credit unit is okay with that, we created another unit that we call centralized loan processing. So these are different departments. There is front office, there is back office. So the centralized loan credit unit and the centralized credit unit is risk. The centralized loan processing, it's back office. So once the risk is okay, they send it to the back office, and back office, they post that loan in the customer's account, and automatically the customer will receive. The branch first will approve to say, okay, we are okay. And once the branch manager approves it, the customer receives the SMS, the money is in the account, and is free to use the money to withdraw it the way he wants. So we had to create what didn't exist in the past. We had also to delete some of the activities and processes that we used to do in the past to make the process much faster, easier, and also actually motivate people. Why are you transforming? So you should not transform by adding more work, but making things much easier for them.
So this actually, I'm looking at the time. I'm going to switch to another question I wanted to make sure to ask you. And Manu, I'm going to go over to you, which relates to this. You're doing new things with your employees, not just when you first develop your first digital product, but on this ongoing, more rapid basis. And I think that must change the approach to training, because there's constantly new skills, new products that your employees need to be aware of. And Wing has an interesting and I think robust digitally based employee learning system. So I wanted to ask you to share a little bit about that training system that you have embedded in Wing, and how you've seen it work for you, and any tips or recommendations you have about the right way to give employees the continuous ongoing training they need to do their job, even as the specific products that you have are constantly changing.
Thank you, Amelia. It was actually mainly after the pandemic that we started this digital training platform. We call it Wing University, because before the pandemic, before 2020, these were online classes, and we have a fully dedicated team that focuses on employee training. And training for us is not only for employees, and there are agents, there are new products that are coming out. So it's a constant process. So every month, the sales team who first gets trained, and then they go out in the market and train the agents, and it takes place. It's a continuous process. But after the pandemic, it became quite difficult for us to do in-person trainings. So we started 2 things. For the employees, we have the Wing University. So we make the content comes from different online platforms, including LinkedIn Learning. The trainer-led training happens through the video conferencing platforms like Zoom. But for agent training, we still do in-person training. And that is because we found that the digital training is not really effective, especially when it comes to demographics. If you are talking about an agent in a rural village, it becomes difficult for us to reach out to the person over Zoom or any other digital means, and the comprehension also becomes a challenge. So that's where, so there we still do one-on-one training. Before we used to get all of them into a room and then used to train them. Now, because of pandemic, it's one-on-one. It's a little more laborious process because you have to go one by one to all these agents and then train them. But we do that for the agents. But for employees, the content curation is quite challenging. So we use already existing, there are excellent platforms available. LinkedIn Learning is one of them. So we make use of LinkedIn Learning. We also have a training agency. I have a life coaching agency who also provide us with content related to that field. Then there are functional trainings that come from the different functional departments. So, so all this is available for digitally for the employees to access. And then there is a dedicated person who keeps track of it to give a little nudge and push to ensure that the learning actually takes place. And you know, and and there is a score and tracking and all that happens, and there is a reporting of tracking and all that happens. And the people managers are responsible to make sure that their employees actually make use of the online training platform. So that's what we do for training.
So thank you so much. And maybe I'm going to go over and ask you the same question, if you can reflect on how training, your approach to training has changed now that you have digitally transformed. And in particular, one of the ideas that I've heard from others is that every time you introduce a new product, your staff should have to practice using it themselves before they try to explain it to clients. So things like that. Can you explain what your approach is to training and how it's different now from how it used to be?
So before most of our trainings, we had parts of the trainings that were digital, but on products, all the trainings were physical. So we had to put on our online platform, it was mostly things like IML, security, awareness. So we didn't really have products, how to go step by step. But as we are transforming, we had to also in order for us to gain time to have the digital training as well, because that digital training is also something that helps our staff to respond to customers. And why the first step that we do in the training is to use our staff to do the pilot of any new product. Because by them using the product, they understand it better, they ask questions, they can see what is not going on well on that product before launching the product to the whole mass market. So with that, our staff can be able to explain to customers and help them through how to go one step after another on the digital platform. So we have created digital trainings. We have created also videos. With those videos, they are showing steps. So for example, when you're on the USSD, how to buy airtime. So it gives you step. Number one, this is what you have to do. Number two, this is what you have to do. So if you want to transfer money, number one, this is what you have to do. Number two, this is what. So we do those training and make them like visible. So we create like your phone is visible on the screen. So you are just hearing the voice that is telling you, step one, you do this. Step two, you do this. And that one has really helped a lot for our staff to understand. And also our agent network, we have to continue training them. So that one has been like a principle in FINCA. So we also introduce online meetings with them. With the agent, it's a bit different because you have also to receive feedback that they are getting from our customers on what is not working well. So you need to create that platform to get feedback and improve our agents banking product. So we also created that digital online meeting so that we can receive instant feedback from them. We put call center. Actually, we didn't have a call center before, so we had to put a call center so that at any time, actually, for the normal working hours is from 8 to 5 p.m. So when we started with the call center, we put the same time. Then after that, we changed. They are starting from 7 a.m. up to 8 p.m. So up to when one day we may reach the instance of 24 hours, but we are looking at the time when our customers, they are mostly transacting. So we have also the call center so that we can, it is also used as a platform to train people, customers, and as well as anyone who is having any difficulty in using FINCA products.
Thank you. And this is actually, I think, a really organic, wonderful way to introduce this idea that the training of your employees on digital is so tied to the transformation that your own clients are experiencing, and that they are having their questions and concerns at the same time the employees are having their questions and concerns, and it's maybe not possible to separate those two things. So they're really part of that same global approach to the change, is how are we going to get our employees better prepared to help the clients through this process. I'm going to pause here because we do have a bunch of questions coming in, and so I think Patricia's going to ask one or two to our speakers now, and then we'll get back to some of the other ones I wanted to get to with you. So Patricia, over to you.
Thanks, Amelia, and thank you so much, Mimi and Manu. This is super interesting also for me to listen in. And a couple of points that come through the chat box to everyone, or also just to the presenters here. We got a direct question from Françoise from Rwanda on the challenges linked to the digital transformation. I think since the question arrived in the chat box, Mimi mentioned a number of them. And she just ended with one example on the synchronization of opening hours of branches and basically the telephone support, the technical support centers. So Françoise, let us know if there is more on the challenges that we should go in, or if Mimi actually already dug into quite a number of them. Other questions that have arrived, one, Mimi, for you, you talked of this digital ecosystem, and perhaps you could shed some more light. Who belongs for you to that digital ecosystem? So that would be one question. And then other questions, basically developing around this training element. And we heard about the agents as well. But there's another question coming in from Jean-June. How can we support especially the new employees? What can we do for them? And this probably also has this cultural element that I think we heard from both of you in your statements. So this would be a question that perhaps, Manu, if you could hop on that. And another question again from Jean-June, how can we make sure, and I think this question really goes a little bit broader, how do we know that the new products actually meet the market demand? And I suspect that the question is coming from the higher tech element in the customer relations. Before, we had a direct touch point between clients and the customers. How can we ensure now that this client feedback still arrives and that our new products are actually fit for the market? Perhaps both of you could shed some light on that.
I would, if I may, Manu, let's ask you to start first with that last one about making sure your products are matching what clients' needs. And because this is an HR webinar, marrying it with the idea that one of the ways we used to feel confident, we knew what was happening was our staff were meeting with our clients. So now in a more digital era, what are the ways that you can still make sure that you're getting that feedback and really understanding and grounded in what's working for your clients? And how does your staff still, even if they're not meeting face to face, participate in that learning?
Yeah, thank you, Melia. We do have these market visits that happen from staff, etc. But that's not, that gives them a perspective of what to expect from the market, and basically also sort of validate some of the hypotheses they might have. But what we do structure, in a proper structure, are mystery shoppings. So we have a mystery shopping team that covers each and every one of these 10,000 agents in a year. So we go to every agent, and there is a set list of checklist. There's a checklist that they have to check against the transactions that will happen at these agents. So, and they bring back primary feedback for us from the market on what is going on. And on the digital products, how do you make sure? See, most of products so far has been what do you say, a digital adoption of an existing product. Now somebody has taken a loan from a bank, and how do I pay it back in a more convenient way? Instead of taking a tuk-tuk or a taxi and go all the way to the branch to make the payment, I can go walk across the street and pay it at a wing agent. Or how do I make my bill payments, and etc. So this convenience factor sort of makes sure always. So you're not creating a need for the product. The need was always existing. You're only providing a convenient, a better way to fulfill that need. But with the bank and the e-commerce, we also have to keep in mind what is the demand for the product. So definitely there is a little bit of market research that we do, a little bit of testing that you do. It helps that these are digital products, so you can get your test results quickly. And then if there is any course correction that needs to be done, that we do. But most of our products are targeted at the bottom of the income pyramid. So it is not easy for us to get the kind of adoption that you might get at the top of the income pyramid. So you, for example, we have a micro savings product that provides the highest interest rate in the country. In fact, it gives about 7 times more interest than the best bank interest rate in the country. But still, the adoption by the unbanked for that particular product is extremely low. That's because the need sometimes is very latent, and it is also integrated with the lack of financial literacy among the target audience that have. So most of our products are not quick wins. You put it out there in the market and it gets lapped up. It's not those kind of products. So we completely understand that, and then we persist with them with continuous, consistent education on financial literacy. It helps us that most of our customers visit our agents at least once a year. So that helps us, and that gives us a platform to drive this financial literacy through those agents. So it's slightly more complicated because the agents then obviously will be looking for the benefits they have in that. So you have to continuously incentivize the entire channel and to pass on that information till the end point. So that happens. So that's how we make sure that the products that you get out in the market has relevance in the relevance not only in the need satisfying ability but also in pricing. That's how we do that. But to answer that question, most of our products are meant for people who don't identify the need, and it is understood.
Okay, we're going to switch over to Mimi. So maybe you had the question about elaborating more on the ecosystem and also about training and agents. I think let's start with the second one first, which is if you can reflect on specifically not just training staff, but now what you've learned about training agents, as that's become a huge part of how you serve your clients. And a related question for me, which is, in the HR management, we have heard you don't need to lose your job, but you do need to consider that you're going to have a whole new set of responsibilities. And I'm thinking of this, if you're not going to have as much traffic in the branches and you're going to have more traffic at agents, and maybe some of your employee responsibilities are going to be the mystery shopping that Manu just talked about. So there is a shift where you're potentially saying to your employees, we want you to remain employees, you're loyal and hard workers, but we want you to do new things. So can you talk about if you experienced that at FINCA, and how that was received, any challenges or any tips that you'd have? And then in the larger context of how you how you manage your agent training. So let's start with that question, and then the ecosystem question second.
Okay, thank you. I think for our agents, training is very key, because as we transform digitally, before customers could only open accounts in our branches physically, but now our agents can open accounts for customers. So that needs really agents to be trained. First of all, for the first time when we hire an agent, we have to train that agent. So we train the agents, and we're having staff for FINCA. As we are transforming digitally, we keep we call it touch tech. So we are having staff that are really in charge of our agents. So we are having an average of 50 agents being supervised by one staff. So that staff has an obligation every day to visit physically at least 4 of those agents. So within the day, and see what they are doing, if they are doing well, if the branding is still on well, if the device does not have any questions. So with that presence, so every month the agent is at least visited once. This is on number 1. On number 2, we have created like a WhatsApp group of agents in different regions. So whenever the agent is having an issue, can write in that WhatsApp group. So we're having also the call center. So our call center, we are having timing when you will see 60% of the calls are coming from agents. So we create also that platform for them to communicate whenever there is a need to do something. And also we create that touch point so that we can get feedback, because one of the questions I saw in the chat was, how do you see that customers, they need this product? So for every product that we are having in FINCA DRC, so we always start by a research. So out of that research, we come up with the needs, the real needs that customer wants. And every year we have a minimum 2 researches on the customer satisfaction on our product that we are offering them. So when we get that feedback, it always helps us to improve on the product. And also we see the transaction. So you can have a type of account where you see that people, after opening that account, they don't transact. So with that one, because we're having a data team, that's the job on daily basis is to analyze. And once they found something strange, they pass it to management, and management has to go call those customers and understand what is the issue. So this is how we keep the touch point. When we're talking about the digital ecosystem, in DRC, our economy is cash-based. So most of the time, our customers, they have to go in the shop and pay cash for them to get the goods. So in order for us to create that, to increase transactions on our digital accounts, so we go above just cash in, cash out for purpose of taking my money out or getting my loan and coming to repay my loan or coming to do savings. So we created other activities, and those activities, it is not FINCA. So we sign agreement with partners, like for airtime. FINCA does not sell airtime, but we sign a contract with partners, because we know that every customer who is having a phone number at any time, he will need to have airtime in the phone. So we sign the contract with that partner. So we know that our customers, they have to pay TV. So we sign an agreement with a TV company, so that if they want to pay TV, they will just do from the FINCA wallet to the TV wallet, and they repay their bill. So it's school fees, we do the same. So we do as much as possible. And whenever we got like an opportunity of a place where most of our customers, they are transacting, what we want is to create relationship with that businessman, so that that relationship will help customers to not come with cash, but just do transaction, bank to wallet, and get the goods. So this is how we try to create the ecosystem. So we go where our customers really transact and try to get many partners and create that ecosystem, so that the money can be moving around without necessarily getting out of the system.
Thank you so much. It's very, very helpful and useful to think of the ecosystem in that customer-centric way of where are they already transacting, and then how can we help them do that more seamlessly. You brought up tech and touch, and Manu brought up digital. Manu, I'm going to go back to you. This is one of my big questions. Is I think one of the fears for staff, and maybe for those of us who have been in microfinance a long time, is that if you go completely digital, you do lose this connection with the clients. And what you have found at Wing actually is you have this interesting story. You started fully digital, and you've added this component now of ensuring there are opportunities for live human interaction. So I'm curious to hear how you arrived at that point of really prioritizing this physical and digital combination, what that looks like, and specifically for staff, what that means in terms of their responsibilities for what they're doing digitally and what they're doing physically.
Yeah, thank you, Amelia. When we started in 2009, and as I mentioned, when we started, it is not that Cambodia didn't have commercial banks. There were more than 30 commercial banks here, and but in spite of that, the banking penetration was in single digits. It was less than 10% at that point in time. So there were certain reasons why people were not willing to open bank accounts. But unfortunately, I guess we didn't realize that quite early. So we started as digital, and in 3 years, we did about $60 million worth of transactions all put together in the 36 months that we were in operations, and ran up huge losses. So the company decided to wind up, and that's when the current promoter believed in the vision and believed in the business model, and he said he bought it over. And they took a very crucial decision, and they said we will use mobile number as the unique identifier to identify these customers to facilitate the transactions. We still do digital transactions, but now this time the customer doesn't have to do it themselves. They can come over to a Wing agent and then hand over the cash over the counter, and the agent will do the digital transaction on their behalf. That was the tipping point. And now we do close to $100 million worth of transactions in a day. From 60 million in 3 years. So every 10 seconds, every second there are 10 transactions that take place in Cambodia on the Wing network. But at the heart of all this is the phygital model, the Wing agents. Now it has grown to about 10,000. Every commune, every district has these agents. There is also a serendipity that 80% of these agents happen to be women, and that was not intentional. So that's something the market identified themselves as a second income for these families. And these stay-at-home mothers then willingly came forward to become Wing agents. Initially, it was difficult to recruit Wing agents. Now there is a demand to become a Wing agent. And that is also because we make sure from the staff side, the responsibilities are, so we have to make sure that it is a profitable business model for these agents who are running this business, because there is huge cash flow that takes place across these agents. Last year, they did more than 100% of the country GDP worth of transaction volumes, these stay-at-home mothers. So it's a lot of investment that is required as well over a period of time. So we make sure that there is a certain profit cutoff or threshold that the sales and distribution team that is responsible for expanding the agent network is entrusted with. So they always keep track of this number before they decide to increase the depth and breadth of their agent penetration in their area. So we never compromise on that profitability. So that's one. Second thing is this large network of agents, which is at the heart of our business, used to contribute 100% of our business before. Now we have successfully managed to bring it down to about 50% of the business, but it's still big business for us. This strength of ours is also our biggest weakness. Now, because of the convenience this agent network provides, the people are reluctant to use the app, the Wing app that you have, and because we increasingly add more and more use cases inside the app. because that's where it's easy for us to make use of the data to provide them some instant decisioning, instant lending, some benefits for them over there. But only 50% of our registered users today use the app. The rest of the 50 prefer to go to the agents. So we keep it that way. We believe it will coexist that way. And we also have realized that it has got to do with demographics. When you look at the slightly older generation, slightly older population, they prefer to go to the agents. It could also be because till recently, most of our use cases were quite were suited for that kind of demographics. You pay back your loan, you get your salaries, you send money back home, and so on and so forth. So now we are adding more and more use cases that also suited for the youngsters. More than 50% of Cambodia's population is less than 25 years of age. So in the coming years, we anticipate that more and more youngsters will come forward, and they will be downloading the app and they will be using the use cases that are inside the app. But till that time, both this phygital model will exist. And thereafter, it's also our responsibility. So that's another responsibility from the team that looks after this large agent network, is to make sure that you migrate them to a different business model to create other revenue generating opportunities for this large ecosystem of physical agents. So that can be monetized, maybe not necessarily through money transfer, but through other means and by leveraging other businesses. So that's what we do.
Thank you so much. And maybe I'm going to come over to you. Same thing. You already mentioned the importance of tech and touch. From an employee perspective, what does that look like in terms of when is there tech and when is there touch, and how did you determine that? And do you find employee comfort or discomfort was part of your decision making for when they're going to maintain some sort of interaction with clients? And when it was going to be purely digital, and is that evolving as everyone gets more comfortable with technology?
Actually, for FINCA, it is quite easy, because compared to Wing, it's the other way around, because we are coming from really touch, then we've added digital on it. So it is the part that our staff also keep them motivated, because they can still keep that touch with the customers. This is something they really like. This is on number one. On number two, by the regulator also, we have to keep the touch, because the regulator is requesting us to really be sure that because we're in a country when there is no national ID, so all business, the statistics, they are not really automated like in other countries. So we have to keep that touch in order for us to sustain also the business. Otherwise, it will be difficult to sustain the business. So it is something that is really rebalancing the way we are doing things, but it also helps us to make our staff and our customers understanding all the changes that we are bringing in the business, and also listen to them, because we have grown, we are big, because we have the customer trust. And when someone trusts you, you have really to return it by listening and trying to implement what they're asking you to do.
Okay, great. So this leads to, I think, one of the big questions that everybody had, and going back to just the fundamentals of having an employee workforce that is motivated and feels supported and feels like they are on this journey with you to doing good for your clients and to having a career path they feel proud of and they can see growing. But I know that that's the goal. And then the reality of change management is so daunting. So I think maybe especially if it's totally new transformation and everything's different, there is a human natural reaction to just resistance to change. And Manu, even I think Wing has been so creative and evolutionary in what it does, that even though you've been digital the whole time, there's been a huge shift from when you were just doing payments. And adding in a banking element is a major change. So I wonder if each of you could speak to sort of lessons you've learned, and maybe start if you can share sort of the resistance or the problems that change management tends to make bubble to the surface, and then any tips that you've had, and if there are times when you just have to say it's not going to work with this person, or really ways you found to resolve that natural resistance to doing something new. So Manu, I saw you unmuted yourself. We can start with you. Sure.
Amelia, you mean among the workforce, or
among the workforce? Yeah, like if you were just doing payments and now you're saying, actually, we're going to do this other thing, or you were going to use this new, you had an old platform and now they need to get their training via this new platform. Have you encountered what I think is a natural human reaction to just say, oh, I have to learn a new thing, do a new thing. Why wasn't the old way fine? And how do you guys overcome that?
Yeah, I think in our case, we are quite lucky that a lot of the top management and a lot of the employees have been with us through the years. So the employee attrition is quite high compared to the market. It is lower, but it's quite high in Cambodia. We have about 50 plus commercial banks and 100 plus microfinance institutions in Cambodia. So there are a lot of job opportunities. So attrition is high, but in spite of that, we managed to retain a lot of our core talent over the years, and there is a sense of ownership all of them have. The spirit within the organization right from the beginning has been that of startup and entrepreneurship mindset. So everybody has this sense of ownership about this brand that they've built from failure, which is a big advantage to us, because they completely understand once you explain top down, once you explain the reasons as to why you're doing what you're doing. There is a complete sense of ownership among the employees. But we do have, when the new entrants come and then they suddenly find that the work culture, the way of working, the mindsets, the thinking, everything is very different and unorthodox. Of course, there is resistance to change. So that is where the life coach comes in. It is not a sudden change. So we have these life coaching sessions for almost the entire workforce over the year. Over 1 year, they have these trainings that go on. Then there is a graduation ceremony, and then you graduate to the next level, and then it continues. So it's an ongoing training. It never ends, including me. So nobody is excluded. So everybody gets to go through this life coaching within the organization. So what that does is it also clears out a lot of ambiguity. If somebody had some issues about working with the kind of culture that they are placed in, and they were reluctant to express it, they usually confide in their life coach. And the life coach then clarifies things, puts things in perspectives. And if there is a change required, or there is a feedback that needs to go in both directions, then that is done. So the life coach has been a secret working force for this camaraderie that we built within the organization over the last 4.5 years. That's the only thing that we do differently, but otherwise everything else remains the same, except for the fact, one more thing, that we also learned that nothing succeeds like success. So it also helps that Wing has been a successful company after the initial failure. That also works to create this sense of motivation and the sense of ownership and the startup mentality to wanting to do more. It comes from the fact that, whatever you're trying is working for you. So also it helps that we've been quite successful.
Thank you so much.
So can I add something?
Over to you. Yes, please.
Yeah, so at FINCA, first of all, when there is changes, it is always communicated, like all our strategies are communicated in open meetings where staff, they are given opportunities to ask questions. And for every changes that we are doing, we try to do it first with our internal staff. So we first create the first buy-in at management team level. Each head of department is part of all new projects. So each head of department, so by them being part of that project, giving ideas, it creates that accountability as well, because you can't now blame that it is not succeeding when you were part of the team that was building up that new product. So on that, this is on the communication side. Then we came up with the reason why we are doing those changes. So we explain those reasons why we are doing those changes, and we have regular meetings, even if they are online, but there are opportunities of communication between management and the staff, because we communicate, we talk about what is happening in the company. So we give them opportunities to ask questions, and they are being responded to. Those questions are being responded to. So there is no bad questions, there is no good questions. So which is making things quite, it is creating an open door policy, and we are having a email that is open to everyone. So every staff is having an email address and can write to anyone. So you need to know just the name of the person. You can write, ask questions. So we created also the mentorship program. So someone who is at the back office, but is being mentored by someone who is coming from the legal department. Someone who is in the commercial is being mentored by someone who is from IT department. So that one, it's built like a team work, a team spirit that helps us also to get feedback from staff that can't openly speak up. So we also do trainings for everyone. So we give clear targets. Actually, we have also automated it in our HR system, whereby the beginning of each period, because we have a period from January to June, then July to December. So before 15th of January, every staff will put the targets that he has to achieve from January to July. And that the first step is being done by the staff himself. Then the supervisor will only approve. And if there is now a discussion, there is a contradiction, they will sit and agree before passing it on to HR. So putting in place those items has really helped us to overcome the challenge of resistance. Because having clear targets, if you don't want to do it, definitely the performance management, you will not succeed it. So you will be a poor performer, and it is a good way out. So this is how FINCA DRC is handling it.
Thank you. And I think what you said echoed what Manu said. I love that phrase, nothing succeeds like success. And I'm reminded of what you said maybe earlier about you actually built skills and then promoted people so they could see this change was an opportunity rather than a way to lose their job. And that is another kind of success, as you've been promoted in your career. So really good tips. We are getting near the end. I had one last question for you guys before Patricia wraps it up, which is we've talked a lot about partnerships. Both of your organizations have an enormous number of partnerships, I would say, and that really is seeming to be typical for successful providers offering digital services, is that it's a partnership sort of it's context where there are a lot of different pieces to bring this seamless environment to your clients. And I imagine that has a huge implication on your HR structure as well, because managing partnerships can be very time consuming, can be difficult if the partnership's not working out. Even if it is, can require a certain amount of monitoring or adjustment as the partnership goes along. So I wonder if you can briefly now, because we're near the end, but Manu, I'll start with you again, talk about how, who within the WING team is engaged in identifying partners and then going through that whole process. I imagine there's a legal element, but also a strategic element. So if you compare to an institution that didn't have to partner with a bunch of external agencies to offer its product, how big of that is it in your HR management structure?
Yeah. From an HR perspective, it's relatively simpler because you have different industry verticals. And so, for example, if you have a corporate business team, then you have a corporate business team which looks at, and there is a clear definition of what a corporate is. And if you have an SME business team, then there is a clear definition of what an SME is. So, but the challenge is not there. For HR team, the challenge comes from the support functions, because all these client-facing business development teams, they bring back a huge number of partners almost every month. So we have over 500 corporate partners, thousands of SME partners. So each partner that they bring in is a business opportunity in itself. So when it comes to the support teams like marketing, now how are you going to create demand for this partnership that you have created? How are you going to create awareness for this partnership that you have created? Becomes a huge challenge, because you cannot have a marketing person looking after each partnership. So that's where HR also struggles, how to structure this team so that there's enough bandwidth for everybody to give justice to each of those potential opportunities, that the revenue generating opportunities that the teams are bringing. We still haven't cracked it, but one way that we are trying, we tried many things, failed many times. So one thing that we are trying now is this hybrid structure. So you may have multiple teams and multiple business verticals that are looking at different market segments with different solutions. But your support team is the same. So when you're creating communication, so you, for example, if you're creating communication, you have a storytelling approach, and the story might carry placements of multiple products, not just one. That's just to give one example. And similar problems with regulatory teams, similar problems with technology teams, and so on and so forth. So, so what we are trying out now is this hybrid structure. So you have business verticals, and then you have this support hybrid teams who work across 3 different business streams. Not sure if we will succeed, but that definitely is a big challenge for organizations like us.
Sure.
We are hoping that this time we succeed.
Thank you. All right, so we are near the end, but maybe same to you, maybe in just 1 minute, if you can summarize what you've learned about the management requirements that maybe didn't used to be there before, but are now there in terms of all the different partnerships that you create. How does that change your HR sort of responsibilities and functions that you have to have in-house in order to make all those partnerships work?
Actually, partnership, the way it has been managed in FINCA is to always determine, because the partnership came with a particular concentration in one of the departments. So if it is more legal related partnership, so there is a chair of that partnership that will be coming from the legal department. If it is like corporate, it goes to commercial. If it is back office, it goes to back office. And at HR level, what we've put in place is to put we have now a section in a department that we call a new initiative. So the new initiative gets all new initiatives that are coming in and direct it to right people that will play a role in order to have that succeed. So this is how we have organized it in DRC.
Okay, thank you so much. This is an hour and a half has zoomed by. We are at the end. I want to give a huge thanks to our speakers and turn it over to Patricia for some closing thoughts.
Thank you, Amelia. Probably my closing words are thank you to everyone who contributed, to Mimi and Manu for sharing the experiences that were so rich for everyone to absorb, but also for the questions that were posed in the chat box by the participants. I think this also got us thinking even more. And perhaps 4 quick summary points at the end, what I heard and is still going, well, driving my brain and making it active. The first one, it doesn't really matter if we have the business model driving digitization in the organization, or if it is digitization driving our business model. And we had 2 examples here that were really rich on that. This is a reality that is happening out there, and we just need to embrace it. No matter which way it is, business model driving digitization or digitization driving the business model, what is the key is listening to the clients and listening to the employees and listening to the agents. If we don't manage to do that, we don't even need to move one step further, and building the systems around what we hear from them. So this is the second point, what I heard from you. The third point, and that was an interesting one for me, and you both brought it out, the digitization is increasing the speed of how we act and is facilitating that we can act faster. And this is what the market is asking us to do as well. And that is leading to the fourth point. This is an opportunity, is when we can act faster with products that might actually be closer to the market, because also the testing of products can be faster. When we embrace digital means, we can create more opportunities again for the clients and for the organization. So those were my kind of 4 takeaways. Thank you so much for implanting them in my brain. And with that, I have one last thank you, and that is to Amelia and to the SPTF for jointly organizing this webinar series. This was very interesting, very rich. I think the last one on the digital transformation brought it all together. Also what we talked in webinar 1 on the right communication channels, and in webinar 2 on the alignment of staff to the social mission. We just declinated it through now in the digital world. So everything super relevant. Thank you, SPTF, Amelia, for walking with us and the participants along this path. And Amelia, I hand back over to you for a final closing word.
Sure. So I know we all need to go. I just want to say, especially to those of you in Asia, you're up late. We so appreciate the extra effort to be here, and to the speakers again, thank you. And we hope to see you at future webinars. If you're not on our mailing list, go to SPTF's website, sptf.info, and you can sign up for free and get notified of future events like this. So thank you so much. Feel free to contact me if you have questions, and I wish you all a good day or good night, as the case may be. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.